everyone, and welcome to this newest edition of Men at Arms. This is Remnase from 40k Theories,
Hi everyone, this is Fiaura. I bet you thought I died.
and today we're going to be looking at the weapons and armor of the Dark Eldar. So let's kick things off by looking at the standard armor of Dark Eldar warriors, the Kabbalite armor. Now, Kabbalite armor is a thin, lightweight, and flexible bodysuit which is pressurized to allow warriors to traverse the vacuum of space. Like standard issue Eldar suits, they respond to neural impulses from the wearer and harden upon command, allowing for the warriors to shrug off civilian-grade firepower, but requiring them to rely on their superior combat abilities and quick reflexes to survive the engagement against more challenging targets. Kabbalite warriors wear armor of segmented plates, often held in place by sharp barbs.
Okay, I don't have a lot to say about this. It's very much designed like the other Eldar counterparts armor. Except for the plates don't actually shift based on the wearer's movement. They simply harden and unharden, which means the plates are always still in place. So this basically looks like a modern suit of body armor for the most part that has the same exploit that you would expect on all suits of armor, the joints. Other than that, it's not much different than the Eldar's armor. Can I ask a serious question though? Eldar, I know your head isn't that shape and that big. What is up with making a helmet that's that large?
I always wondered that as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks pretty, but...
I mean, it looks pretty, but like, your soldier is not truly aware of where that helmet is. It makes it a lot easier if they're like behind cover to go, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just count off the Eldar. So I always wondered, what's with the big hat?
Part of me would think it's taller just to house all any forms of internal sensors and stuff like that. But that being said, it's being the Eldar was supposedly super advanced technology. You'd think they'd be able to make it a lot smaller. But that's just my theory how it could be. I don't know for certain personally. But anyway, moving on to the main weapon of the Dark Eldar Kabbalites, the Splinter Rifle.
Shotgun.
The Splinter Rifle is a weapon that's used by nearly every citizen of Camorra at some point in their lives. Standard weapon of choice for Kabbalite warriors, the weapon is lightweight and usually sports monomolecular blades for added functionality in melee combat. It features a medium-sized ammunition crystal to reduce weight while still maintaining a decent amount of ammunition before the user needs to reload. The gun houses an ammunition disintegration generator to break up the crystal into shards, along with a cyclic ammunition feeder to house the shards before firing. Once fired, it routes the energy used to disintegrate the ammunition crystal through a magnet-electric impulse chamber that accelerates the crystal to supersonic speeds, rocking it towards its intended target.
Okay, first off, let's get some terminology right. This is not a rifle. Rifles are called rifles because of their accuracy, because you rifle the barrel in order to put a spin on the round as it leaves the barrel to reduce the effects of air resistance and wind upon the bullet. This would be referred to as a shotgun or a punt gun, and I'm leaning more towards punt gun because based on the description and pictures I've seen, it's got a larger circumference area when it has impact than a zero-gauge shotgun. Punt guns are literally just giant shotguns designed to put as much metal into the air as possible in the general direction of whatever you're shooting at. They used to be used for duck hunting or flight of bird hunting. Today they're completely illegal as they kill way too many animals at once. But in the Dark Eldar's reality, these would be very useful against raw, unprotected flesh. Not anything armored though, whatsoever. The rounds have no clear direction when fired this way and are likely to cause more indirect and glancing hits, something I'll talk about in a second. Generally, this is not going to be a precise or very accurate weapon. It's just going to be a spray as much crystalline shard in the general direction of the target and hope that something sticks. When I say indirect or glancing hit, because of the way the shards come out of the barrel in random shapes and sizes, the shards do not have pointed tips or more direct areas that are designed for where the bullet is supposed to impact. Meaning that they are more likely to, instead of hitting you with a pointed tip, hit you with a broad side or a fleck or scrape off of your body. While this will significantly reduce their penetration, they're much more likely to maim on unprotected flesh. thereby keeping the victim alive but tearing huge chunks of skin off and not really damaging the muscle underneath but causing significant amounts of bleeding and pain. For being a primary military weapon, I don't think this would actually defeat another military. It's useful for shooting at people who are not of another military force, not wearing body armor.
How does this stack up, though, with the standard Eldar Shuriken catapult?
It's less accurate than the Shuriken catapult, but it tosses a lot more flak out at once. So while yes, each individual shard is less likely to miss, you're compensating for the accuracy of the user by just putting as much shard crystal bits into the air as possible. It's basically an idiot-proof gun. You just point fire in the general direction, something's going to stick.
So moving on, we're going to take a look at the Dark Eldar Agonizer. Now, agonizers are weapons that come in many forms, normally such as whips or gauntlets, but are designed to attach themselves to a victim's nervous system, take control of it, and inflict immense pain which can disable or even kill the victim. The size of the creature is said not to matter, and often the larger the creature, the greater potential for pain infliction, and also have the ability to harm vehicles as well, potentially disabling the crew or disrupting the vehicle's systems.
Okay, I don't mean to be rude to the Dark Eldar, but this is just a really big, fancy taser. It has a variable charge setting that allows it to adjust the frequency as well as voltage and polarity of the charges so that as it attaches itself into the victim, it can directly inflict the opposite charge of the victim's primary nervous system. This is what allows it to inflict the maximum amount of pain upon the poor unfortunate soul who's had this attached to them. They would inflict a lot of nervous system damage, but the damage for the most part is going to be temporary without prolonged exposure. Think of it as like you got hit with a taser. Unless the person literally tases you for 20 or 30 seconds, it's not really going to hurt you permanently. But yeah, these in all practicality, from what I've studied and seen in the lore and everything, these are just really fancy tasers. They look nice.
And in fairness, given the Dark Eldar's MO of basically just raiding and capturing slaves, these would be perfect for, incapacitating people to be rounded up later.
Exactly. Those who have never actually been tased, when you get tased, you don't really want to do anything for like the next 5 minutes. Your body has to reacclimate itself to just basic functions, much less you doing conscious movement. So it's incredibly painful. And for someone to be able to have a taser that adjusts its electrical current based on your body's electrical current in order to both match the frequency and deliver the opposite polarity, that would hurt.
Just a tad. Okay, next up on our list we have the Shadow Field. Now, the Shadow Field is an extremely rare defensive item used but only by the most experienced Dark Eldar. It surrounds the user in a dark miasma of energy, and it is incredibly difficult to wound a Dark Eldar utilizing a Shadow Field, as the field itself absorbs almost all of the energy of an attack. However, it is not indestructible and can be overloaded with enough damage.
Okay, I literally have no way to analyze this from a direct standpoint. There are no statistics, stats, and its effectiveness is completely and utterly wild. I'm stating this now. This is a theory for how a shadow field works. It repels energy attacks by shooting out its own energy attack after analyzing the energy type, determining the opposite energy from which it can hurl in order to defeat said attack, and then throwing it directly at the attack. The shadow field is a computer, a supercomputer, that can analyze the incoming energy attack at faster than the speed of light in order to lash out with its own energy blast in hopes that it will have the exact correct calculation to counter it. There are no technical specs for such a defensive object, but this thing reacts in the same way as an APS system on a cruiser-class ship or on many modern main battle tanks, using a computer to shoot down incoming fire to the target by hitting a bullet with a bullet. Only this is doing it all at the speed of faster than the speed of light as far as calculations are done, which means I have no idea how quickly it's actually, what its computing capability actually is.
So in reality, this is just purely theoretical.
This
Nothing
is purely theoretical, and I would estimate a shadow field as pure science fiction, because I don't think anything will ever be able to do calculations faster than the speed of light.
fair enough. Okay. Up next, we have the liquefier. Now, liquefier guns are weapons which spray a huge amount of potent acid that melt through body and armor alike. And the minions of the feared homunculi usually have built-in liquefier guns from which they can fire their own bioacid like blood.
Okay, guys. I'm going to go over this step by step. Acid is not a super effective weapon, nor is it super damaging, from which everyone dies the moment it touches you, proceeding to melt through your skin, muscle tissue, internal organs, and bones within seconds. That's not how acid works. I can, for example, dip my hand raw into sulfuric acid or fluorium hexaformaldehyde acid, and it won't melt before my eyes in seconds. Yes, my skin will be very badly damaged. I may be bleeding, but I'm not going to see spurts of acid melt through steel or other materials. It doesn't work that way. And no acid can melt through more mass than it has mass of acid to start with. For example, if I drop 10 grams of acid onto my hand, and not the kind of acid that will make you high as hell and make you have the weirdest things in the world you ever see, I mean the kind of acid like sulfuric acid, I will lose about 10 grams of my hand's mass, which is about 3 drops of sulfuric acid. Not anything to really worry about, because to illustrate this, 10 grams, your pinky fingernail weighs 33 grams on average. Acid, when it encounters something less acidic than it, starts to neutralize to pH 0. And it's purely linear. So if you hit me, so if I have a negative 10 pH acid and I hit it, and it hits something that's negative 5 pH, it drops to negative 7. If I have something that's negative 7 pH and I hit it with a plus 3 base, it's going to drop to negative 1. That's how acid works. In addition to this, acid takes time and is not very useful. Actually, it's completely useless, to be quite honest, against plastics and polystyrenes. That's the containers that are used to store said acids. The chemical makeup of them also is directly laced through things like Kevlar body armor. A very similar, almost the exact same type of body armor worn by the Imperial Guard. And definitely armor used as the undercoating of Space Marine power armor. Simply put, these weapons are not going to be effective against anything that has any form of body armor, particularly if the body armor is laced with materials such as plastic and polystyrene, in order to further enhance it or provide some cushion. Acid also relies on prolonged exposure to do its damage. Simply diluting it with water from a canteen, repeatedly washing it away, will prevent any real long-term damage and allow the soldier to continue fighting after simply being bandaged. This is why chemical burn stations oftentimes have lots and lots of water at them and tell you to rinse the burned areas until the paramedics arrive. As much as I would love for this type of weapon to be some sort of super lethal, amazing option, in my opinion, it's nothing more than a terror weapon to be useful against completely unarmed and unarmored targets, and don't expect it to melt through steel or armor in real life in any amount of time that would be combat effective. Could it melt through a land raider? Yes. Is it going to melt through a land raider in seconds? No.
It would take several hours minimum.
I don't care what the pH of the acid is. The acid, for instance, the acid you see in Aliens is completely science fiction. There's no way an acid could be that acidic. It just simply cannot exist. It would evaporate before it could actually be applied to anything. So,
Okay.
sorry guys, sorry Dark Eldar, I don't mean to pick on you. Actually, I kind of do, but that's only because Remley's asked me to.